Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time for another episode of OC Spotlight, the one show, maybe the only show that shows you the most incredible people doing the most amazing things. And this week, we're proud to say we've got one of those people with us with a story that I'll let him tell it here. It somewhat links to all of our journeys. It certainly links to his journey when he grew up here in Southern California. And it's an original play that's being presented at the South Coast Repertory right now through the end of May, written by a gentleman who's on the phone right now, Reggie White. Welcome, sir.
So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It says Reggie D. White. It's important to say the D in there. Are there Reggies?
Yeah,
I'm going to
because for the longtime Packers fans know he is not resurrected
as a playwright.
As a playwright.
I was going to ask. I thought maybe he found a new voice, a new career here or something. All right.
No, my father tried very hard to make me an excellent football player. It was not my.
It didn't work. So you grew up in where? In Claremont, you told me, here in Southern California.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Empire, long-time listener, first-time caller of the lover of the OC, and I moved to the Bay Area for college, but SoCal is home, and so it's wonderful to have this story that is a part of my family here in the place that I grew up.
Yeah, let's give it the details here. It's called FREMONT Avenue. Is that a real street? I know there are Fremonts all over the world, but is this a fictitious street in your account, or is it a real street somewhere here?
No, there are so many Fremonts, and this is one of the many Fremonts. Yeah, it's a real street.
Real street. So you wrote the play. When did you write it? And then you workshopped it and you tried it out east and revised a little bit. Talk about the journey of writing this play.
I had been sitting with a lot of ideas around family and legacy and home and generation, thinking about generations of men and how we pass down things. And so I started the first draft of this in 2015, and then I kind of put it away. And then I finished the first real draft of the play in 2020. And then it's been a sort of accelerated journey over the last 5 years to get it to South Coast. We did a world premiere, a sort of co-production at Arena Stage in D.C. last fall, and I got to hear it for the first time and see it with an audience and learn a lot of things, and I did some rewrites, and so this is in part a co-production between those two theaters, but it's a meaningfully different script. I remember the actors' faces when I showed them the script, and they were like, we thought we knew
that's
all of
different.
Our lines, but it's all very different.
And we thought we knew these characters. I didn't know they were going to do that, yeah.
Exactly.
So this is officially the world premiere, at least of this version here. Will there be other versions, you think? Is this still a play in evolution, or is this it?
One of my theater teachers in college always said to me that the last and most important character in any play is the audience. I think an audience teaches you so much about a story and about crafting things in a moment, and it's been such a wonderful collaboration with Arena and South Coast and David and Hannah, the two artistic directors, Leanne, the director, and the 8 incredible actors who did both versions of the show. I think there are like a couple things that I'm curious to try again. So if you see it again, maybe something will be different. But I feel really good about where the play has landed so far.
All right, tell us the story.
Yeah, FREMONT Avenue is a play that takes place across 3 generations in this one house. It starts in the 60s with a man named George who meets a woman named Audrey, and his life changes. In the 90s, their son finds himself really struggling with this failure to launch and understanding what does plan B of his life look like, because plan A that he planned for himself is not happening the way that he thought he would. Exactly. And in the 3rd generation, in the 3rd act, Robert's son, Joseph, finds himself back in his childhood family home for reasons that he never anticipated, dealing with conversations that he never planned on having, and the ways in which, men aren't particularly great about communicating their emotions.
No, we'll talk about that. As we were prepping for this, you said, give me the quick version, and you said something to the effect of, see if I got it right, 3 men and how they learn and relate to one another here, one generation to the next generation, and the woman at the center of the conversation. I thought, and I immediately said, what? I said, I know that story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's semi-autobiographical. The characters are deeply inspired by folks in my nuclear family, my nuclear and chosen families. But what's been so gratifying about the journey of sharing this play for over the last 3.5 years is how many sort of resonance points and reflection points people who have experiences that are very different than mine have found in the show. And so that's always a nice surprise.
What is it about men today? And I'm an aging baby boomer. I just turned 70. Oh my goodness, or 70.
Congratulations.
And I find myself now with grandsons trying to pass on wisdom, trying to pass on stories, trying to pass on something. Feeling frustrated that why didn't my dad have these conversations with me? And I didn't have a grandpa around, so I didn't have those kind of conversations. And their frustration looking at me like, are we talking again here? Why are you talking? You're always talking. I don't want to talk. And I thought, I wished I could have heard these stories and these tales and this wisdom. And now I'm trying to be that person. And they're 6 and 12. And they're like, let's just go do something. Let's watch something. Let's play a video game. Do we have to talk? Is that part of the problem here? Do we just not talk across generations anymore here?
I think we don't. I love music. There's a line in the play that a character who my grandpa plays, but he says, I used to joke that music is my first language, and that feels deeply resonant for me. But there's this song by this artist, her name is India Ari, and she says, if old people talk to young people, it would make us all better people all around. And I feel very fortunate in my household growing up. I grew up with 4 generations.
Wow.
My mother and I, after my parents separated, grew up in the household. So me and my mom were 2, and then my grandparents. And then for a few years, my great-grandmother lived with us.
Oh, my goodness.
Being able to experience over a century worth of lived experience and history and recipes and music and song.
And were you open to that? Were you interested in it? Or were you like my grandkids saying, oh, please, what do I have to hear all these old stories again here?
I was a child of the 80s, so I didn't really, what I wanted wasn't really at the center of the conversation.
Yeah, no, they're like looking at me like, this is interesting? Well, I don't want to hear anyone talk about this stuff here.
But yeah, I wasn't really, the times were a little bit different, and so there wasn't the sort of ubiquity of television and the internet.
Video games and all. That's all they want to do is play games all the time here, or on their phone.
Exactly.
I got to put it down and talk. Oh, this is painful.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but I do really believe that the answer to some of our interpersonal challenges really come from a kind of curiosity about the people around us.
Oh, absolutely.
The impetus of this play is a conversation that I had with my uncle and my grandfather a year after my grandmother or 2 years actually after my grandmother passed. And I found myself just learning. We had a conversation. I was talking to my uncle about his time at UC Santa Cruz. He was there at the same time that Huey Newton was.
Oh, wow.
That was like
the Black Panthers. Exactly. Go look that one up, folks. Here, yeah.
Exactly. And that was a detail that I knew about his life, but I had never really been curious about it. And so I remember sitting down with my grandpa and my uncle, asking him that one question, and the 4 of us talked for 4 hours.
Wow.
And I mostly listened, and I was just like, these men I've known for my entire life, but the sort of root of how I knew them was based in their role to me as my uncle and my grandfather.
Yeah, not as real people that had really interesting stories,
Exactly, before I even came along. And so I really do think that a kind of curiosity around the people around us is a kind of maybe thoughtful hypothesis about how we grow closer, but I really do. I feel so fortunate for the intergenerational relationships that I've been able to build, and I hope that people leave with a kind of curiosity after they see the play.
I'll tell you what's interesting. I want to don't go too far down the rabbit hole. We want to keep talking about the play and how you wrote it and why you wrote it, but I find today we're mostly a business channel here in Orange County, OCTalkRadio.
Yeah.
And so we do shows for the City of Hope Hospital and UCI Law School and all these big brands. And mostly the conversations are about business. And one of the curious conversations we have a lot of is because people are living longer and working longer, there is now 3 and 4 generations of workers in the workplace.
Yes.
What used to only happen at your house if your grandmother lived with you or your great-grandmother, you're fortunate enough to know somebody like that, or grandfather, now might be happening within your office or your business or your organization, where there's the 20-something and then there's the 40 and then there's the 60 and maybe even still the 70-year-olds like me or something out in the workforce, because we're the baby boomers. We're going to live to be 90. We're not done yet. This is just the beginning of the third act here.
Time left.
Yeah. The curiosity would be, are we having the conversations that we didn't, for example, when I was a kid, because people died at 65. So that's why I never knew my grandfather, let alone anybody else. And I had my parents, but they were busy and working, and this is the beginning of 2 working families, or 2 working people in the household. So I was the first kid stuck in front of a TV and kind of left alone a lot of the period of time. I didn't have uncles and aunts and grandmas and stuff like most generations before me. So we were that in-between age. We didn't have much connection to the generations because they died early, and now there's a whole new world. I see it. I'm being a grandpa, and I don't even know what a grandpa is. I never experienced being a grandpa. So we're inventing what this is and how to have these conversations, whether at work or home. What do you think about that? Are we?
Yeah, I really believe that none of us really know what we're doing.
That's one of the lessons I learned after 70 years, right?
Exactly. We're all kind of just making it up as we go along. And there's something terrifying about that, but there's also something kind of liberating about the fact that the only person whose rubric you have to live up to is your own.
Yeah.
Like, how do you want to show up in support of your community and your family, for yourself? I feel like so often we go into relationships thinking about ways that previous relationships have let us down, or there have been disappointments.
Absolutely. So baggage. I'm not going to do it this way, something. Yeah.
Exactly. So unpack your baggage and figure out how to show up differently. I think because the world is full of so many distractions, it takes a little bit of patience to try to make connections. I definitely think it's much harder to make and maintain and foster connections now than it was a couple of generations ago. But I really do believe that people are hungry for a kind of deep interpersonal connection. And so it takes a little longer, but I do think you can still build really deep connections.
And I think they're hungry, not just connections, but conversations too. Unlike my grandkids who don't want to talk about anything, not with Grandpa, I think more and more people do. That's why podcasting's popular, long-form storytelling, audiobooks, or whatever, plays again. People want to hear more than a soundbite and a snippet. Has that been a good thing for plays these days? Because for a while their plays were, I don't know, is this an outdated modem here? Will the next generation even listen to plays here?
Yeah, I think so. I think plays are the original convening, and I've been fortunate enough to make theater making my life for the last 2 decades.
Wow.
And it's one of the things that I observed when I was teaching acting at NYU over the last 10 years is the thing about theater is it actually is a wonderful model for audiences to experience the kind of bravery they need to enact in their own lives. I think theater's greatest power is proving itself as a possibility model, because if we want to watch characters make bold choices. We want to watch characters make mistakes. We're rooting for these people to get themselves together. And I think that theater has such an enduring power and potency to be able to show audiences how people literally put their lives back together step by step. And I'm so excited to be a part of a generation of writers and directors and actors and theater makers who are interested in these kinds of stories about people who are just figuring it out. And hopefully, as people sit in the audience and laugh and recognize themselves and their own behavior in the stories that they see, that it helps people find a pathway to living their own lives differently.
I found it amazing many years ago going to New York and seeing my first plays, really. I'd seen some in college or something, but really going to New York and going to Broadway or off-Broadway even and seeing plays. And at first, to me, as a good Midwestern kid, it was kind of hard to suspend disbelief. These are two people on a very... It's a bare minimum stage. It's obviously a stage. It's not. Not like a movie filled with realistic scenery and stuff.
And tricks and things.
Yeah, exactly. So somehow I grew up watching television and movies. I could suspend belief there and believe that's real. And a play, it took a little while. But how quickly I lost that. I ignored. I stopped looking at the wooden backdrops or the lack of backdrops. And suddenly I'm listening to people doing real conversations, real emotions, real vulnerable, real things I recognized in myself or other people, and how quickly I bought into the whole thing. You can suspend reality, and just if you got two people really talking real stories there, it really comes across. I don't know if that's too corny or unbelievable, but to me, I think that's part of when I say this to my grandkids. Go watch a play, and they're like, a play? That's not. I want to watch a video game in a new world. I said, what's the difference? You're suspending belief in this fake fantasy world. Why can't you go sit in a theater and turn the lights down and watch two people or watch a bunch of people on stage in a world of their creation?
I think there's something really powerful that theater actually asks it demands you to bring your imagination to the theater.
That's a good way to put it.
Movies and video games.
Spell it all out for you, a little too much.
Yeah, they spell it all out. But books,
another example.
The medium of reading and theater it's such a wonderful activation for your own imagination, and also allows you to create memory pathways with what you're seeing, to sense memories, whether it's things that you're seeing, smelling, hearing, I think it's such a powerful way to tell stories. So,
and it's a powerful, I never put the two together, but it is, obviously plays many times come from a book, or they call the thing that you're doing the book that they're all studying here.
Yeah.
And it is like a book. For many years, not that long ago, people were predicting the demise of books, the end of books. Nobody wants to read. They're just going to watch the video version. They're going to watch the wait for the movie to come out. And that hasn't happened. Audiobooks have soared. Reading continues to be strong. And I think that impetus to use your imagination, to hear something that really resonates, that's truthful. I believe that. And then to fill it in, it's not all like a movie spelled out for you or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And movies are incredible. I love movies.
I love movies.
But the power for us as humans to harness our imagination is, I think, one of the most spectacular things about being human. And so I love any opportunity to engage my own imagination, and I love opportunities to allow people to invest their imagination into a story too.
The reason I focus on this, maybe I'm focusing too much on it, but we're in Southern California. This is not known for tons of new plays, other than the South Coast Repertory, which is such a jewel here. We don't have, this isn't Broadway. We don't have tons of new productions, and people aren't, I think, growing up used to seeing plays here. Maybe they drive up to L.A. and see something, an equity waiver play or a big play maybe they go see a giant play in a big theater.
Giant musical,
But
totally.
They don't, at least most of the people I know here, like my grandkids here, aren't growing up around theater. I don't know why Southern California has never been that, and I'm appreciative that South Coast Repertory continues to be that and is that bright, shining exception where we can hear original voices and original plays like yours. So I give a little shout-out to that. And I encourage people to try it if you've never done it before.
You do. Yeah, and I love that South Coast, this play was a part of their Pacific Playwrights Festival, and so every year they put together
big time
5 new readings of plays, and whether or not they produce their plays, it just allows people to understand that the act of storytelling is alive and well, and I'm so grateful for South Coast.
And they fill up, and they sell out, and they find an audience where I'm predicting that there isn't much experience going to plays, so therefore people don't think of that or are hesitant maybe to go try it. Go check it out. So give us again, the name of the play is Fremont Avenue. It's running now, and it goes through, what do we say,
May 23rd, I think?
May 23rd, it says, yes. And it goes 7 days a week, so there's, on the weekends, there's performances and stuff here. I always thought it was amazing. Many years ago, I was an entertainment publicist, and I handled people who did plays on Broadway. That's really where I got to go see some of these plays. And how do they keep it alive? 7 days a week. Some of these plays end up running for years and years. How do you say the same line over and over again? How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it interesting? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll ask you.
Yeah, I think, again, it's the audience is that last
what
character.
They said.
And so
right.
Being able to try it out every night with a new audience to see what lines are going to resonate with people and how are people going to connect to a story, I think.
Will they all laugh at the same place? Will they react the same way? And one actor told me many years ago, he said, maybe the 800th time I've said the line, but it's probably the first time they've heard it. So for them, it's fresh, it's new.
Exactly.
And I just think that's amazing.
I love that so much.
And so you did this for a while, teaching at NYU. That's one of the top acting schools in the country here. What were you? Did you act in plays and movies? Did you have a career, or did you go straight into academia here?
Yeah, no, I started my career as an actor. I worked in the Bay Area for a while after I left college. I worked in New York. I worked off-Broadway. I was in this play called The Inheritance on Broadway, which won a Tony for Best Play. Yeah, I still act. Obviously, writing has become a bigger focus, and it's taking up more of my time. But I was in this really incredible musical called Goddess that was at the Public last year.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel very fortunate that theater making writ large is the love of my life. I'm really excited that writing is now as big a part of it as acting and teaching and directing.
And talk about being a playwright as opposed to a screenwriter. I knew so many screenwriters through the year, and they said, boy, I wish I could be a playwright, because the screenwriter, I turn it in, and that's where it just starts. 50 other people tinker with it and do it, and it really, they always say film is a director's medium. It's how they're going to interpret it and do it. The screenwriting's, words are important, but they don't dominate. But on the play, oh my God, the director doesn't touch anything here. This is their...
No, director's touch.
Do they? All right, because I got the feeling it's a playwright, it's a writer's medium. It really comes down to the written word more than it does on the screen. Am I overstating that?
It's a really collaborative medium, and I love being able to take the input of the actors and the directors and the designers to be able to craft something.
Or do you storm in and say, that's not my play? Stop. Drop the curtain.
Sometimes. But that's the importance of finding great collaborators.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you do find them, it's a real blessing.
So how did you find the team to put this together here? Was it, again, you had done this workshop through the Playwrights, whatever they call it, festival or something here?
Yeah, so there were workshops at South Coast with the Pacific Playwrights Festival, and then there was an audition process where I found the actors, and it's just been an embarrassment of riches, and I'm so grateful that this team has been put together.
Do you take it on the road after this, or are you looking for the next opportunity to show it again?
We'll see. We'll see if someone's interested in the story. But so far, the response out of South Coast has been really encouraging, and people, the critics have been really positive. So we'll see what the journey for the play is beyond here.
You already got the coolest job in the world as far as I'm concerned, writing a play. Sit and do this, and then to see it come alive. It must be something when you finally hear them speak the words that have only been in your head or on a piece of paper before this, when it finally has a voice, when it finally comes alive. Talk about that when they finally...
It's a very surreal experience, and it's such a sacred trust that a playwright has with a group of actors. And
do they ever surprise you and say, oh my goodness, I never thought of saying it that? I guess it takes, they interpret it, and suddenly you wrote it, and all of a sudden the elements that you didn't think of, they bring to life. The director does, the actors do, the lighting does, something, it starts to take on a life of its own here.
It can sometimes surprise you. And for people who have different relationships to being a control freak.
Which is the way I picture most playwrights, control freaks,
I hear things a really specific way, but sometimes things happen and you're like, oh, not that way. Oh, that's great, let's try it that way. And then sometimes you're like, oh, no, say it the other way, it's better.
Because I've watched them make films, and it's much more, let's just improvise. All right, just go, try it, see what happens. We'll do different takes, and then we'll piece it all together differently. But a play, it's on, it's there, and you're in the middle of it. You can't suddenly stop and say, wait a minute, let's try that a different way in the middle of the production.
No, you really have to keep your hands on the wheel the entire time. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm very curious to see it. I'm looking forward to it. And I really, again, emphasize anybody who hasn't been to a play or doesn't go often, because there aren't as many opportunities here in sunny Southern California as it does in New York and Broadway and those kinds of places. So maybe we don't have the same culture or the same experience doing it, but I think a play is just a unique thing that has a power that you can't replicate. It's not a movie. It's not a musical. When it works, it really is something very electric that you never forget. That's my take on it. So I'm sure you'll also fit that take here. All right, Fremont Avenue, starting right now, opened here on May 1st, runs through the 23rd at the fabulous South Coast Repertory Theatre, right across from South Coast Plaza. Everybody knows it. Most people have probably been there at least once. Here's another reason to go there again and hear an original production written by our guest here, Reggie D. White, not the football player. We got a different Reggie with us today here. Thank you so much for joining us here, and best of luck with your play, and I hope you'll come back as it takes off and becomes part of the American canon, and then people are doing versions of this all over. You have to come back and say, here, it all started here at South Coast Repertory.
It's from your lips.
Absolutely. All right, thanks so much for joining us, Reggie D. White. There you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time. You never know what you're going to hear as we highlight the most amazing people doing the most incredible things right here in Orange County, like premiering folks, first in the nation to see a play written, specifically developed here at South Coast Repertory from someone who's grew up here in Southern California, Fremont Avenue.